See, these have a thermal pad on the bottom, which needs to be soldered to that pad in the middle of the chip. That's normally done with an oven. They actually put some paste on it and then they cook it into place with an oven. I've put extra holes in here, which you'll see later how they work for getting the solder in underneath the chip. So what you need to do to start is take your flux pan, put a little bit of flux on all of the pads, is a little tricky to do with my camera and right in my face while I'm doing it, but what you want to do is put your flux on your pads and then very carefully align the chip. There's a small dot you can see on this top corner here. That is pin 1, which I don't have really clearly marked on this board, but you can sort of see a little mark at the corner at the one end that identifies that pin 1. So you want to try and get that as centered as you can. Make sure the pins are nicely aligned with the pads. And then make sure the tip of your solder iron is clean. You can wipe off any excess solder with a paper towel or one of those little metal filing sponges you can get for it. But get the tip fairly clean, and then just put a tiny dot of solder on it, just the slightest little bit. Then you can hold the chip in place, and what we're going to do, make sure it's good and centered. Hold it down and just lightly tack the one corner pad. Doesn't even matter if it's soldered well at this point, you just want to hold it down. Put a little more solder on your iron, tack the other corner. And I'll often do, that's probably enough, but I'll often do like 3 or 4 corners just to be extra sure it doesn't move. And what actually happens when you do this is that the flux will actually cause the solder to wick down right under the chip. So you don't actually have to worry about soldering each individual pin. What will happen is you can put a bit of solder on the end of your iron, then just push it against the top one, and as you move down, just lightly kind of drag it along, lightly tapping each pin, and you'll actually see the solder wick right down underneath the chip. So that's pretty much it. Flip it around, do the other side. You can also go over back over the pins that you tacked at the start. It's kind of hard to see. I'm doing this right now without a magnifier because I got my camera in the way, but normally with the magnifier you can see a lot better that it is wicking underneath the pads. I'll try and take some close-up shots of that later too, so you can see. Another thing to keep in mind with this board is that there are a couple of pins in the middle which are soldered to the they're attached together, they're connected to the same pad, so it may look at first glance like you've got a bridge between two pins, but it's probably not a problem.